2 months into being a mom of two under two, I was overtired and overstimulated. I called my own mom in the middle of the night, crying, in need of advice. "Sleep when the toddler sleeps," she said. "Okay, but when do I sew?" "You don't get to sew right now. Welcome to motherhood." She was only trying to help, passing on advice that had been passed on to her. But giving up the thing that ignites my soul would turn me into a bitter and resentful mom, which would be much worse. I knew there had to be a better way. So I turned to my friend Hanne, who says that being a CEO was 100 times harder than being a stay-at-home mom.
I always knew that when I eventually had kids, I wanted to be the primary caretaker. However, I quickly realized that making cute lunchboxes and setting up sensory bins was not going to make me happy. So I needed to find a way to be both a present mom as well as fostering my ambition as a designer and an entrepreneur. So if you can relate, we hope you enjoy listening in on our conversations where we explore what life looks like as a multi-passionate mom.
My name is DeLaney. I have two daughters, both under two, and we split our lives living between Latvia, Mexico, and Arizona. I'm an aspiring dressmaker and now a podcaster with my co-host, Hanne.
Hi, I'm Hanne. I'm originally from Belgium. I have a 1.5-year-old and we live in Portugal. So you will notice that we have the American vision and the European side of things.
Yeah, and what kind of things do you get into that make you a multi-passionate mom?
Anything that's colorful and creative. I love crochet, I love sewing, and the moment drawing is like kind of what I'm doing the most. So yeah, anything that can give me that crafty feeling.
So you're very multi-passionate. What is a multi-passionate mom?
A multi-passionate mom is somebody who is the primary caretaker for her kids. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she also wants to take time to make sure that she fills up her own cup and that she can foster that inner spark that she has so that then she can show up more lovingly and more happy for her family.
Taking the time to do the things that make her feel, like you said, fill her cup and bringing that back into the family. I think this idea that mothers are meant to be the sole entertainers for their children is so modern. Moms of the past just didn't have the time. They didn't have today's conveniences. My favorite joke is that when my great-grandmother did the laundry, the only difference between a bedding and a delicate cycle was how hard that woman was scrubbing. So if you think about the duties of a stay-at-home mom, you have the housework, which is typically cooking and cleaning. And then you have childcare, which is meeting your kids' physical and emotional needs. And I think with modern technology, making the housework aspect of our jobs so much easier and less time consuming, the expectation became that moms would start to design and build in these extra activities that kids don't necessarily need. And I'm not saying that stay-at-home moms have an abundance of time on their hands, but I do think there is an opportunity to build in time to pursue your inner spark, which is a term we use a lot, or we're going to use a lot in this podcast. How would you describe inner spark for the listeners?
Your inner spark is that thing that you do that gives you energy, which is a very important part of what we're talking about here, because it is something that brings you in the flow. It's something that makes you happy. It's something that you really lose yourself in, but in a good way. So that, and it can be like you do dressmaking, or it can be more general, like more of what I'm doing, where it's like all those different creative things. So you might not have like one specific thing, but it is often something creative that you will do to really help you feel fulfilled.
Yeah, I would say anything outside of motherhood that you want to pursue in addition to, not necessarily equal to, but in addition to motherhood. And of course, we're coming to this podcast from the understanding that you've already, when you take the time to pursue your inner spark, you've already met your kids' physical and emotional needs. It's not about pursuing your inner spark instead of being a stay-at-home mom. I think we're really strong on the primary caretaker with secondary passions, but we do believe that it's so important to take that time for yourself. What would you say are some of the biggest benefits of being a multi-passionate mom?
Some of the biggest benefits are definitely that you can show your kids that it's okay to follow your passion. That you can also show your kids that not the only thing that you're doing is being on your phone or watching television. I think that is a very important part too, that you can do something for yourself, but that it actually makes you show up better for everyone around you. And that it is okay to take some time to really immerse yourself in something specific. Did I miss anything there, DeLaney?
No, I think you nailed it. Taking that time for yourself and then bringing it back, like you said, bringing it back to your family. Inner spark, ignite your soul, bring that light into the home. And again, I love what you said, modeling for your children what it looks like to discover and pursue your dreams. I never want my girls to think that mommy had this big, exciting life that just ended when they came along. And so, yeah, and you definitely, I think another big reason to pursue your inner spark is because it's innate. It's something within you that you didn't ask to be obsessed with or in love with doing. And if you were to give it up, you might become bitter and resentful, which I think would be way worse than taking some time away from your kids to pursue that inner spark. But it's not always straightforward how to navigate life as a stay-at-home mom with a passion outside of motherhood, which is why we started this podcast. I mean, I scroll my Instagram feed and I see videos, day in the life of a stay-at-home mom, but they're from the perspective of stay-at-home moms who love to do those child-centered activities. And, so they wake up and, I set up this sensory bin. We did this arts and craft, which kept them busy for 40 minutes. I rotated the toys, that sort of thing. But I also see videos, because my Instagram algorithm knows me and loves me, I see videos from these amazing creatives baking cakes, building furniture, painting entire movie scenes on a set of acrylic nails. And when I click their profile and see that they're also a mom, I want to see a day in their life. How are they doing it? What tips and tricks do they have? Because I need those things too. We're by no means gurus, and we want to state that from the get-go. We're just two moms trying to figure it out and document it so that if you're a mom with an inner spark, you might be able to pick up some tidbits, tips of advice, things like that. And we can get into what we'll be discussing in the podcast, but I think a more fun question is, what won't we be talking about?
Ooh, that's a good one. What won't we be talking about? Well, we won't guilt you into things. We won't shame you about what you're doing or not doing.
Definitely not.
It's we won't give you like the 5 magical tips that will make your toddler sleep 3 hours so that you have time to pursue your passion. That's just not going to happen, because we know very well that every family is different, every kid is different, and we are so tired of seeing that kind of content online, where then after seeing that you feel like you're doing something wrong, and that because the way you parent, something isn't happening the way you like it or whatever. So that's definitely something you won't be hearing from us. The 5 magic hacks or whatever that will make your life perfect and sunshine and rainbows. What else? What are we not going to cover, DeLaney?
I think we're going to stay away from the standard or the typical parenting topics like sleep training and baby-led weaning and things like that, because I'm sure you agree. I think there's plenty of resources online, podcasts and Instagram channels that would touch on those subjects so much better than we ever could. So I think we're going to stay in our lane and talk about practical tips that work for us, that might work for you, things we do throughout our day, systems we've set up, things we've picked up here and there, how to get in the right mindset to switch between flow mode in your inner spark and then back to mom so that you can be fully present and connect with your kids, what kind of help we have, and how to build your community. And we also want to know what you want to hear from us. If there's a specific topic or thing you're struggling with, you can send us a DM on Instagram or comment on YouTube. What else?
So we're going to have conversations. I think that's an important part. We were having these conversations in private, and you were the one coming up with this idea of the podcast and being like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could have these conversations and other people could actually listen in? And I think that is such an important part, because it can be really lonely. Being a stay-at-home mom can be extremely lonely. And I'm so grateful to have friends that I can check in with and that then also are on the same wavelength with what it means to be a present stay-at-home mom, but also how we can make sure that we feel good, that we are fulfilled, that we don't lose ourselves in motherhood. And having those conversations, like we've had dozens of times, now actually having these conversations, quote unquote, on air, I think that is what we're going for. So that you can listen in and feel like you're, having a cup of tea, a coffee, a sip of wine, whatever's your, whatever you go for, with your girlfriends, and very non-judgmental girlfriends. um, having those conversations where we admit that we feel overwhelmed or that we feel guilty or that we really want something more, that not everything is perfect. And then having a discussion about that, about how do you handle that? How do you do that? How do you make sure that you can show up as your best self? That's the vibe we're going for.
I think that's key, what you said about having a place to talk about what you're struggling with, but not ending it there. We don't want you to feel like you're surviving motherhood. So it's calling that friend. The fear is that moms are isolated and maybe don't have someone to talk to. And so you have this podcast now that you can tune into every week and get some advice on how to get out of that struggle and hopefully improve your situation as a multi-passionate mom. And next week, we're going to be discussing how to find your inner spark if you don't necessarily know what it is, but you do know that you're not feeling entirely fulfilled doing these everyday kid-centered crafts.
Which, just to come back to that, is like such an interesting one. Again, we'll be talking about social media and the impact on social media on our worldview. But one of the things that, like you said, you will see are these moms that are having so much fun creating these sensory bins. And the truth is, that probably is their inner spark. If they weren't doing that for their own kids, they would love doing that for their cousins, their maybe school teachers. That is what they love doing. And you might look at that and feel like you have to model that and not get that same satisfaction from doing those activities because that is not your inner spark. And so next episode, we're really going to explore what that might look like for you with examples from, your life, my life, some things that I'm experimenting with to find that thing that lifts you up. That's going to be the discussion next week.
Yeah. So if that's something that interests you, tune in next Monday for our next episode.